So we have Diwali across the globe now because the family is spread around on endorsement of international certification schemes. So the whole purpose of having this discussion today is that let us look together at how these international endorsements are really supporting our overall business growth. How is it bringing down the cost of certifications? And how are we at par participating across the globe in various areas where we want to grow? So currently, we have two schemes which have been internationally benchmarked. One is trees outside forest, which has been done effectively by NCCF, and the other one is the IndGap scheme, which has been benchmarked with the global gap, and it has happened after a huge effort by Dr. Manish Pandey and the PAT division of QCI. So today we are honored. We have Dr. Aim Singh and Dr. Manish Pandey here with us to share about these international endorsements. So to begin with, I welcome Dr. Manish Pandey. Can we have the profile ready? Yeah, so it gives me a great pleasure to introduce Dr. Manish Pandey. In fact, we have been interacting very often because Dr. Manish Pandey has a varied portfolio. Right now, he heads the PAD division of Quality Council of India. He is a professional with more than 20 years of experience in domain of quality infrastructure in diverse sectors. Uh, he was the first chair of the National Platform and Initiative Cooperation Network NPICN of UNFSS. His specialization is in design and development in conformity assessment frameworks, thereby leveraging accreditations. He's been a part of various national technical working groups. He has contributed immensely in the national interpretations of the standards and, as I said, benchmarking, so where he has played a huge role. He has memberships. He has been a member of BIS. Then currently he is actually heading the PAT division, which offers various certification schemes like UAS, IndGap, Yoga, ABS incentivization, hygiene rating audit agency certification, and also NPOP. Then he has international affiliations with UNFSS, ARSO, UNIDO, etc. He is a coordinator for India consultant for UNCTAD and FAO. So welcome. In fact, we are looking forward to hearing from you about the benchmarking that has put IndGap at par and in the global scenario. So welcome, Dr. Manish Pandey.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Madam Rama and others, to have us speak about our journey about benchmarking. I think so. I've got 30 minutes, but I will try to restrict this in the allocated time. I would talk about the IndGap scheme and also benchmarking, but just not only focusing on benchmarking, but also have to speak about IndGap for various reasons. And of course, benchmarking is a part which would give about a bit of a clarity in the in the process about what was the subject and how we have dealt with it. I'll share my screen, and there is a presentation I think would give more clarity. Okay. Can somebody confirm, Madam Datta, that the screen is visible?
Yes.
Yeah,
okay. Yes, the screen is visible.
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, so I represent the QCI, which currently has the focus to drive quality for an Atmanirbhar Bharat. Now, the subject assigned to me is to share our experience about the benchmarking. And one heading that I have given is about strengthening the fruit and vegetables value chain in India and improving market access. This is what was the idea of getting the benchmarking done. Now, this is one slide which I just want to share with my other professional colleagues, that when we talk about quality infrastructure from a QCI point of view, we have these five pillars, which starts with standardization. We talk about metrology. We, of course, are the national accreditation body, and that we drive from the conformity assessment bodies, which help to ascertain the conformance through certification, inspection, and testing. And of course, then we have the process of market surveillance, which is done by the market surveillance agency, which involves to kind of pick up the market samples in a predetermined way to understand that whatever are the label claims, whether they have been followed by the by the companies or the services that have been making the claim in their labels. Now, see, this particular slide is only to tell you that in a country where agriculture is the mainstay in terms of making a livelihood, if we don't improve our agricultural systems, we continue to be languishing between developing country, somewhere lower middle in terms of income and livelihoods. So the idea about focusing on compliances which are focused on market is something that was the focus, where the division thought that it is time to focus on the good agriculture practices from an India standpoint, and to see that if we can create a system where the bottom of the pyramid, which means the farmer understand the logic of food safety, and then they optimize their chemical inputs into the agricultural systems. And also, we wanted to come up with a very structured certification system which would be recognized from a global market access point of view. Now, when we talk about food safety in a food matrix, the main focus points are, of course, the GAP, the GMP, and the global hygiene practices. Now, we all understand good practices. When you talk about good practices, they span right from the farm to the to the retailer space. So, but my topic is only restricted to the good agricultural practices, which focuses on environmental, ecological, social sustainability that would result in safe and quality food. FSMS is something that is successor of GAP, but if your raw material itself is of a low or a compromised quality, you can then forget about the other aspects of quality, because if the base has an issue, then I think so we will have a lot of issues in terms of safety hazards from a food safety point of view. And now let us talk about the quality council and the project that we thought in terms of benchmarking. Now this is something which was funded by APIDA, and later on then Spices Board joined hands. This idea about IndGap was a precursor when we started the good agriculture practices under my former officer, Mr. Jory, and it also happened that we got a project from SARC to develop a good agriculture practice. So the idea was, okay, let us do SARC, but what about India? So then we kind of consolidated the good agriculture practices that we were somewhere having within the QCI. We kind of consolidated it and launched it somewhere in September 2014, and then we moved to take up the project of the SAR gap. And so at that time when we did the IndGap, the the tenants was at that time associate 65, and of course then we matured into 17065, and that is how we managed to get the benchmarking done. So this is the way we execute any of the scheme. So giving an example of IndGap, done through a multi-stakeholder consultation process, leveraging accreditation, using the certification body to focus on producers, giving them a certification, focusing that the certificate gives a statement of conformity to the scheme requirements. And of course, this is something that we need to see still, but we think that certification would give them some kind of a premium. Now, the scheme typically has a compliance criteria, certification process, and requirements for the certification body, because this is what helped us also to get our scheme benchmarked. And I will talk about the benchmarking in a couple of slides. When we talk about quality and compliance, sometimes there is a discussion that who is responsible. In through the years, this is what we found out, that the responsibility in quality is not some one person's responsibility. When we talk about the farming sector, it is the farmer, of course, the processor, the handlers, because if you have also handled organic, sometimes everything is done very nicely, but when the organic is handled by transporters and storage systems, the problems start to crop in. Everybody has great expectations from the government, but what we think about government is that they will and should only provide the enabling environment. Of course, this is important. The consumer is the one who has to constantly ask for quality and compliant products, and this is how there is a lot of discipline in the supply chain. If the consumer is okay with anything and everything, it is very tough to have quality and compliance in any sector, uh, be it food or any non-food item. Now, the challenges, you people, if come from a food background, understand we have problems of cross contamination, microbial spillage, pesticide residue, and heavy metals. And this is where we think that IndGap is something which helps to resolve this. And this is resolved through the basic matrix, which is the soil, of course, traceability, record keeping, harvesting practices, and field sanitation, because somewhere we feel that post harvest we have a lot of quality issues, sorry, which otherwise is controlled by the farmers in his field. The other aspects which a gap helps is on workers' health safety, pesticide, planting material, and water management. So these are some, big ticket areas which are resolved through the good agriculture practices. And India Gap is no different. It actually adheres to the global requirements which initially had been laid down by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN. Now, this is a slide which usually we share with the Hindi speaking belts, where we focus on issues in terms of agriculture. How does GAP help to give them a good produce, which results in better price realization? We talk about increased productivity, increased quality, and of course, increased income. And these are some examples that we have while we were doing our pilots. Anyway, I have still to come to the benchmarking process, but this is where a mix of record keeping, science, IT, and good management practices would result in the crop being certified under the good agriculture practices. So these are certain crops that we had taken in our pilot. And uh, talking about the benchmarking process, so as far the benchmarking process is concerned, the focus was to have 10 projects certified under IndGap through our own technical criterias, and of course by accredited certification bodies. And these were the various districts that were identified with the support of APIDA. The guiding principle was to take up producers which were under the agricultural export policy of the Ministry of Commerce, under which APIDA operates, and we identified them. The idea was simple, that we have two experts. One expert looked into the ISO requirements in terms of quality management system, and the other expert was to see that the package of practices are being followed in each of the crop. And these two, experts were deputed to the field. It was COVID time. Still, I should thank the experts who took all the time to visit those fields, implement the requirements of the IndGap, and of course, then the two certification bodies which were given the task to certify. And once they had certified, the reports were submitted, and we got a certification. While we did that, we used individual firms and also group firms. For individual firms, it was a simple activity, but in group firms, we had to do the square root plus the risk assessment, and of course, the idea was to do a check about the quality management system implemented and the package of practices implemented by each of the farmer. And I think so, with the rigor of the two experts that we had, we were able to get those 10 projects certified. I should put it on record that at least we rejected 3 to 4 projects because of non-compliance. After our repeated intervention also, we saw that they couldn't come up to the mark. And since we had the global gap review pending, so we were very strict. And of course, hats off to the certification bodies who also were very professional in their dealing. It was not that it was QCI's money and then they could think about cutting corners, which didn't happen. And as a result, we saw that the groups and the individuals were certified to the satisfaction of the global gap. And this was how the management or the audit program was managed. I think so everybody understands that, who is in the field of either consultancy or certification. And of course, this audit process was done where they actually did in 50% of cases of repeat field visits to close certain NCs which were systemic in nature. The documentary or the documentary incompleteness was sorted by exchange of emails. Um, Now, we leveraged accreditation because, as far as the benchmarking rules go, we would and had we required the CBs who have been accredited from national from an accreditation body also signed agreement with Global Gap, which was NABCB, and then we went to that. Now, when we talk about the IndGap that we are talking of being benchmarked, we had done a very rigorous SDG mapping of the same, and this was something which was required in some other project, of which Mr. Aim Singh was the chair technical of EPCH, and then we went ahead and also did the mapping of our SDG goals. Now, coming to the main thing, so global gap is something which is gold standard in the primary production system, and they had various options with them in terms of benchmarking. One was that they approved the checklist, which was just the checklist equivalence. They had recognition level as equivalent, resembling and supplement, and of course they had equivalence in terms of scheme. Now, as QCI, we thought that if we want to go, let us go ahead and do the complete scheme benchmarking for the scope fruits and vegetables, because we understand that in India, mostly the exports in agriculture produce is focused on fruits and vegetable, and this is how we made our decision. And in case of IndGap, we put the scheme and we got the status as equivalent, which is plus plus then approved modified checklist resembling plus supplement. Now the process, just to explain to you, so we had to had an application review. I would tell you that the application itself ran into 100 of pages, which was itself a task, but the secretariat did it. After that, it went for an independent technical review within the global gap system. This was done. There were couple of queries and clarifications. It then went for a peer review, then went for a benchmarking committee review. Global Gap reviewed it and then they awarded us the recognition. So this was the process, and I have just explained to you that there were minimum 10 projects that we had to display from an IndGap point of view. So when you talk about the benchmarking process, it is not only the technical criteria that we talk about as being equivalent to Global Gap, but also the confirmatory assessment procedure. In this case, the certification body, in terms of their manpower, their systems in place, and their various other processes, was also complied, and this is how the Global Gap then awarded us the benchmarking. Now, when you talk about why we require the benchmarking, or why did we go ahead with the benchmarking, we all understand the concepts of audit fatigue, and then not have dual standards in terms of quality. So we focused on that, and we thought that the farmers could actually comply to one Indian standards. Uh, However, I should also mention that as QCI, we also hold the National Technical Working Group for both the Global Gap farm assurance systems and also GRASP. Even after that, also we thought, no, no, let us give the farmers only one, technical requirement, so that they achieve both IndGap and Global Gap in terms of markets. Now, these are some price structures which are there. The beauty with this is that once certification body comes to QCI under the IndGap Global Gap benchmarking, they actually have to, give us in a maths where we have to give 6,000 euros to Global Gap. Now it is unto us whether we want that to be coming us as a grant from any government agency, or that we generate so much of business that the cost per certificate comes to be very low for the certification body, and this would be one of the main attractions for the the Indian producers to come to IndGap, so that they reduce their fee by 20 to 30%. And I think so it is QCI's responsibility to see that how do we generate more amount in order to offset the additional cost which otherwise a CB or a producer has to pay when they go for a Global Gap system. We are still trying to work to have it remunerative in terms of getting more volumes. And once we do that, I think so we would continue to carry on with this. So this is the letter which we have received, which talks about having an equivalent scheme on fruits and vegetables. And of course, there is another work in progress which is going on, where we would now quickly try to have the version 6 benchmarked to the current 4.2 which we have. So this is something that I wanted to share. So this is this is how it was done. You can see an auditor from TQ Cert doing the audits, and you can see the kind of systems that these certified entities have, which shows not only cleanliness but uniformity, standardization in their produce, both from on ground agronomy practices to packaging, sorting, grading, and all the other things. So this is my last slide. So we talk about sustainable development. We move forward and talk about certifying farmers to GAP. We want to add various modules into the good agricultural practices. We also are kind of talking to the NHB and other public procurement institutions in India for having certain policy initiatives to kind of specify good agricultural practices in their procurement. And of course, the final aim is to have self-reliant smallholders in India. So I think so. I have done a presentation in 20 minutes, and want the just a sec, uh, give back the call to uh, Madam Krishna Datta. Thank you so much.
Definitely, the presentation was amazing, and of course, we got an insight into the kind of effort went in getting this standard benchmarked. So definitely, this is a question which I had asked you even earlier. That was regarding the version 6, because I understand that in the next couple of months we'll have to get the version 6 also, instituted, so that the certification bodies as well as the farmers can get an advantage. So, would you like to throw some light on the version 6 preparation?
Right. So, okay, so we have had a couple of discussions with Global Gap. In fact, one of our senior experts, Mr. Shrihari, who actually was heading a certification body, was a part of that discussion with the certification bodies themselves, which was SGS and TQ. and we had a detailed discussion. I think so. The bigger challenge was to have the scheme benchmarked. Now it is just plus plus on certain elements, which would be much easier than the slog that we had done in the earlier system. So I think so. There have been initial discussions. We are very clear on what to do next. We are waiting for the application for 6.2, which the Global Gap Secretariat is going to give us anytime soon. And once we have it, I think so we will be on it so that by December we should have some, at least semblance to the 6.2 equivalence, which would be required and is mandatory. Initially, not initially, simultaneously also, we are working to have the NTWG and the GRASP also upgraded. So I think so we have emails sent out to our stakeholders. So either ways, we will have Global Gap, certifying the Indian systems as per the Indian ecosystem, irrespective of whether we get a benchmark or not. Because when you talk about reciprocity, there are various means to achieve it. So I think so NTWG having an national interpretation guidelines is something that we are working, so that in case if we stretch the timelines on the benchmarking, the Indian farmers don't get hurt through any delays or procedural things that are sometimes unforeseen and stretches the timeline.
Got it. Thank you so much, sir. And also, another thing that we are currently looking at is like the awareness about this standard being benchmarked. So in India, there are conversations about global gap, but very few really know that IndGap has been benchmarked. So as of now, we have not had many takers of the IndGap as a benchmark standard for global gap. So, any efforts in promotion or uh, anything more that we can do so that more CBs are aware about it, more farmers are aware about it, and definitely then we can promote this as one of the most sought after standards.
No, I think so. I will take that responsibility of a very low key marketing of the success that we have. The reasons are many, but what we have been doing is we have been in touch with the National Horticulture Board, which
Mhm.
incidentally has shown quite a bit of an interest, and they are doing some a great big seminar in the coming weeks. I think so. Everybody knows that until and unless it is specified, voluntary schemes have a very slow pace. What we are trying to do is that somewhere there is a two-pronged approach to first tell the CBs that this is a better way to reduce your cost for accessing markets, and
Mhm.
I think so we have to depend upon their marketing and sales promotion teams to do the job for us. And secondly, we have been talking to NHB and others to see that if they find any value, we have told them, and in fact we have earlier also spoken to a similar scheme that we do for the medicinal plants, that first year they can give the money that they want in terms of support to any businesses, but second year, rather than putting an independent or an in-house monitoring and evaluation team, they should consider the IndGap certificate as a tool of compliance, so that they reduce cost. And somewhere then IndGap slowly starts to get as a more credible system of monitoring and evaluation, and of course compliance, which will help the projects to show quality to the stakeholders, both domestic and international. So these are some things that we have started to work on. I have received communication from NHB, but yes, I
Mhm.
think so that has to be sustained in terms of getting it into our regular operational requirements.
Yep, sure. In fact, I'm sure many CBs will be happy to do it, and we are all there together in this. Yeah,
It's a
Thank you so much.
social responsibility for the CBs.
absolutely,
It is
absolutely.
promoting agri schemes. I just have one question, Krishna. Can I ask Mr. Pandey?
Sure, sure.
Is the scheme only for vegetables and fruits? That's what I understood from this. At least at the moment, currently, the scope covers only vegetables and fruits, Mr. Pandey.
Yes, ma'am, you're right. The IndicApp covers entire gamut of commodities,
Hmm.
tea, coffee. We call it
Hmm.
as
Hmm.
combinable crops. But this particular benchmarking uh, is focused on the fruits and vegetable, because the most exported commodities is the fruits and vegetables, specifically from the central India. But as I've told you, the meta thing is in place. The benchmarking, it is just to add modules in case
Okay.
if there is a special request and a market requirement, because you have to understand that it is a 4,000 euro deal that we need to pay. And as QCI, as a division, we don't have that much of monies to ask, or to the funders. There has to be a rationale for the scopes that we choose.
I agree, because millets, there's a huge global demand now, actually, because in fact, we are getting a lot of requests from the MSME businesses, most of these millet manufacturers. So I think that is something maybe we need to take the common consensus from all these associations who are dealing with the millets. There is a market, and I guess today, 2023 is the year of the millets even in India. Maybe keep that as your next option. Yes, schemes are expensive to really get the approvals or endorsements, but there's a market need. There is a market need for millets. I really request you to explore this. Since you mentioned this, let us see. There are many associations in the agri side also. We need to get their consensus. Yes, there are schemes like this, whether they'll come forward and go for it. But millets, definitely yes, because we are under the impression that it covers everything, but scope appears to be limited at the moment. Thank you.
Yeah, madam, that's an important view. But what I have to also share that we had actually completed the combinable module also, which is not a huge task. So we have actually done that and prepared. In the 6.2 version, we will move ahead and go for the combinable crops under which this comes. There is one more thing which I wanted to share is at QCI, we actually had done a smart food for ICRISAT, which is a huge document on millet certification, but
Oh,
somehow there was a change in the ICRISAT management and somehow they have put it in a back burner. But
okay.
we have, we call it as the smart food, which talks about millets as the main, commodity under
Yes.
which we talk about low sugar, low trans fat kind of preparatory. So that also is with ICRISAT, because, they were our funders. So the IPR rests with them, but there is a scheme already we have.
Oh,
If you have the wherewithal to talk to ICRISAT management, I think so that is another thing which is already ready-made in terms of millet-focused, processed food category.
that's a certification program, is it?
Yes, ma'am. It's under, yeah, 17065 and has all the elements
We need
of
to
a
see.
full-fledged scheme.
Must be it must be from that ICAR, I guess. There are many members in BIS also, committee members from ICAR, the ICRISAT and ICAR, all these organized. We need to
Madam, I think so. ICRISAT is a
a
separate body
different
which comes
separate
under
board.
the
Right.
CIAR system.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So it is a bigger meta body,
Ah,
and that they had given us a, yeah.
right. No, some of them are there in this committees, but let's see, because this requests that are coming from millets are actually for exports. So the common question, because I myself picked up many such calls from entrepreneurs, and there are many startup schemes in the country also, especially from many state government startup schemes are covering millets exports also. So the common question is what regulations that we have to follow, what certification. So at least if an IndGap is available, it's a global scheme. Let's pick it up. I'll just mark it and let me see. Try to kind of trigger the interest of the market for this actually. Thank you for this.
Right. So we'll just check if we have some questions
Sure.
from our guests as well. Any questions for Dr. Manish Pandey?
Question.
Dr. Manish, if it's not too inconvenient for you, we'll request you to stay back with us in this session, and then we can hear Dr. Singh also, and
Couple of
then
them raise
maybe.
their sorry,
Yeah.
Krishna. Couple of them
Okay.
raise their hands. Please check.
Okay. Yeah.
Let me just see.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, two attendees. We have Mr. Shankaraswamy and Motorola Edge. I kindly request you to rename your handles, please, your identity. You can unmute yourself and you can ask.
Sure. Good afternoon, ma'am. Is it audible?
Yeah, clear.
Yes.
Yeah. This is Dr. J. Shankar Swamy. I'm a professor in horticulture, and I'm expert in the post-harvest technology in the handling of fruits and vegetables and value addition and supply chain. Sir, my question is because while we are implementing the IndGap, so global gap means so as you said that the registration application, because application from the farmer side or cooperative organization or entrepreneur, or whether you are going to bear that fee whenever we are applying the certification for the particular commodity.
Okay, so initially when we were doing the project, we had funds for doing 10 projects. And if this question was then, I would have gladly told you to join us and we would have paid the fee. At this point of time, it's a commercial dealing where you need not to pay QCI any amount, but only to the certification body who would be charging you the mandates for coming and auditing your system. So the money goes to the certification body to cover their cost of auditors and travel and stay. So the answer is no, we are not going to fund it, but your cost would be limited to the certification body's fee that you need to pay to the certification body itself.
So is it going to vary according to the commodity, sir? Because the harvesting practices as well as the pesticide residue and the heavy elements and etc. It is going on, and so whether you need to provide the any kind of the documentation to analyze the pesticide residue, we need to approach to the any kind of the NABL accredited lab, or otherwise, do you have any referral lab to show the those kind of the documents before put forth any kind of the applications?
So, doctor, if you go to the website IndGap, there is a technical criteria which is in the form of the Excel.
Mm.
Everything which is required there needs to be fulfilled as per the requirements and as per the international norms. Yes, the lab has to be 17025 accredited, and so you will have to, whichever lab that you are approaching would have a website, and you could always inquire their sales or front office about their status and they could give it in writing, or you could go to the NABL website and check the credentials and you would understand whether the lab has an NABL accreditation for a scope that you are requiring. Usually people would have an NABL accreditation, but the scope could be cement or something else, so that would not suffice. You need to see that the scope that you are testing has the lab has the scope for that particular testing.
So my last question, and now we are speaking about IndGap as well as the global gap. So now, when we are comparing these two benchmarks, and the possibility, because most from the beginning we have been seeing those kind of the complication when we are executing this kind of the project, because implementation of IndGap, whether we will be going to get a success, and so whether it will be going to reach to the farmers, and a lot many things, even has a bit like a hazard analysis of critical control point while we are implementing in the processing sector also, we faced so many problem even, and while we are doing the auditing, we are not even like what we can say, that we are not faithful enough while controlling the quality, like, because so sometimes they used to take the money and they used to give the certification and the product move into the market. So that kind of the conditions we have seen. And global gap, we are speaking about the global gap
Doctor,
because
doctor, I will stop you here. I'll give you a very simple answer. See,
mm,
how we understand projects is that, you go randomly with a requirement and try to select farmers, or, you select a village and start doing your projects. I don't think so. That is the correct way. To my understanding, a project needs to have a very clear-cut induction process. You need to see whether those farmers have the understanding. I'm not talking of resources, but I'm talking of the understanding. If they understand that the good agricultural practices are going to optimize their cost structure, I think so they will go for it. Most of the projects, because I had also been to a certification, means I've been in a certification body, and there were projects which was funded by the government. The government would say, okay, these villages please certify, and then the problem was that you start to then manage the documents and the processes. Whereas my firm view is that please don't do it. Go to an individual farmer, understand its their understanding about good agriculture practices from a commercial and from a food safety point of view. If you see that the farmer understands that it is in the benefit of his land and his produce that is going to find value, you pick up those farmers. The biggest problem with such kind of projects are that you get a area and you get a money to do a project, and then we are lost, trying to just manage things, and you end up, if there is a strict certification body, you will lose it, and then the government will ask where is the money, and then you ask your project managers what had happened. So I think so the best way of doing group certifications or any certification is to do a risk analysis, pick up farmer by farmer rather than picking up region and then including all the farmers in it. I think so it is initially it is a tough task, but if you manage to take 10 farmers, do your project, I think so 50 will follow. But those first 10 farmers should be through a process of due diligence is my firm view.
Thank you,
And then
sir.
it doesn't matter whether it is global gap or SAR gap or IndGap. It's very easy, and the farmer knows his a thing because he is doing for ages. It is only the science that you need to articulate it to him.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Manish. This was really interesting. I mean, if we can really follow the practice that you have just specified, it will do a lot good to many people in this country. More and more people will actually come forward and present themselves to be a part of the due diligence. We're sure about it. Anybody else is there? Uh, in fact, sir,
Q&A, there is a question.
yeah. In fact, how can you become a certifier for IndGap? That's the question.
It's very easy. I think so. Chapter 5 talks about the certification body requirement. Please go through it. Only two requirements. You should have a quality management system as defined in 17065, and then you should have people who have the prerequisite qualifications, which also has been specified in the CP requirement section. If you have both of them, please apply to Manish underscore or dot Pandey at qcin.org, and we'll take it forward. So plus please read to on that document which talks about requirements of a certification body. So once you read it, and if you think you have systems and people, please apply. And if you are compliant, it takes only 24 hours to issue the certificate, based that the assessors are raising no NC on your systems.
We have Mr. Arun Bansal raised his hand. Bansal, can you please unmute yourself?
Yeah.
Can you please? Yeah.
Manish, in that,
Sir,
in that
good afternoon.
good afternoon, Manish. How are you?
I'm good, sir.
Any idea what is the from the farmer's perspective? If a farmer's field is certified for some crop in under IndGap, what is the price premium he is likely to get? Because the farmers will most understand that economy other than the sustainability and other aspects.
That's a very good question, sir. I think so. You have faced a lot of questions when you're doing the medicinal plant project. So you know the answer, and I know the answer. I think so. I have to, get into some kind of a discussion with NHB to help me out with the answer, because they are the procurers, and at times it would be good if they give us some premium. But the answer to this is that not every time a certification will give you premium. Sometimes it will give you access to markets, which is more important than premium. But having that discerning markets is a project that we all collectively as quality professional needs to develop and create. Then only the quality bandwagon is going to move forward. So yes, I understand there should be a very clear cut tangible value proposition in any of these certifications that we do. So that will eliminate a lot of these discussions about the problems that the farmer face, or the farmer tells you when he talks about having his systems up to a level where he can be certified. So point well taken. But usually, if I also give you an answer, I think so 8 to 12% is the current premium which usually people get. But access to various market is something which should be sold to them. Because if you see Global Gap, it has an entry to 130 countries. IndGap through the fruits and vegetable scope could also lead them to those markets. But the incentivization and the percent increase is something which depends upon the various buyers that you are going to engage with.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Right now we don't have any more questions for Dr. Manish Pandey. So, but sir, we would like you to stay back with us. And let's
Yes,
hear.
I'll be muted and I'll stay here. Yeah, I'll
Sure.
be around.
Thank you so much. Uh, can we have the speaker profile for Dr. Singh? So after hearing Dr. Manish Pandey, let us move on to hearing Mr. Arvind Madhav Singh. Mr. Arvind Madhav Singh has been gracious enough to be with us in the previous seminar as well. And, it's very interesting to hear him because there is a lot of input that we get with respect to forestry. Uh, I think you changed the slide. Please, can we move to the previous slide?
Just a second. 1 second. This is fine.
Yeah, this is the one. Yes. So, Mr. Arvind Madhav Singh is presently the Director General in Network for Certification and Conservation of Forests, NCCF, which is a not-for-profit organization. He has had a very rich experience where he has headed he was a principal chief conservator of forest, and he has headed the forest force, forest department, government of Assam. And during his illustrious service period of more than 35 years, he has rendered services to many posts in the central as well as the state government. He has presented many papers in various contemporary issues in the Commonwealth Forestry Associations, IUFRO, ITTO, World Forestry Congress, Indian Forest Congress, Global Bamboo Summit. He has represented India in many international forums, such as the UN forums, and is an expert in people and forest, sustainable forest management, and forest certification at international and national levels. And he is also a member of various committees. Welcome, sir, and we look forward to hearing from you your benchmarking journey for the Trees Outside Forest scheme.
Thank you, Madam Krishna and Madam Rama. First of all, I would, express my deep gratitude to both of you and to Triple C to giving us an opportunity to, show the world or the stakeholders that what we could achieve in a very short period of almost 8 years of our establishment as NCCF, and we have developed about 6 standard schemes, and we are working with 5 more. So I will just tell or focus upon the tree outside forest certification scheme, which have just recently got endorsed from PFC in August 2023. I will just show a couple of slides to the August gathering and try to focus on the importance of tree outside forest certification scheme and the rationale behind why we have developed, how it has been developed, and what sort of things we are going to take it forward. So I will just show a couple of slides now. Share my screen. Is it visible?
Yes, please.
Yes,
Full
sir.
screen.
Please.
Full screen mode. Yeah, clear.
Okay, so if you will just see that we have just given a tagline of our scheme, that is conserving forests, protecting farmers. So we are just trying to achieve 2 of the important mandate. First thing is this: if we are going to get more resources which is available from outside forest, definitely we are going to reduce the dependency of the forest material. So that's why we are in that sense conserving forests. And another aspect is this: how far we are going to give some sort of incentive to the farmers, those who are raising tree species in their own farmland. So how we are going to, protect their incentive, or you can say give them incentive. That is another aspect which we are helping through this scheme. A little bit about this scheme is this, that It is a CSO, as just mentioned, not-for-profit organization established in 2015. And we are a national governing body of PFC in India. In addition to that, NCCF is a member of IUCN also, and a member of GA. And in addition to that, we have done some sort of work and then got the observer status with UNFCCC and UNCCD also. If you talk about the mandate, basically about the NCCF, we are into the sustainability standards, and we are developing standards through, you can say, stakeholder consultations. In addition to that, we are into policy advocacy, we are into natural resource conservation and management, and with the capacity building also, with the help of our own experience and our own set of officers, retired officers, experts, and professionals. Mr. Bansal is also one of the person who is, deeply associated with NCCF and helping us in developing a lot of capacity building and developing standards also. So coming to the standards which we have developed, a little bit about this. The green one is this, all these are functional, and then we have already developed so far. The orange one is this, these two are in the advanced stage where we have done the pilot testing, and we are just trying to have consensus building for quality planting material and non-wood forest products also. The lower three blue one is about where we have developed the concept note. We have developed a draft, you can say, note also on protected areas and wetlands, but still lot of works are to be done. So these are in the process of development. But the couple of the upper one, like forest management certification scheme, tree outside forest certification scheme, these two schemes have been endorsed by PFC for the international recognition. And then we have developed carbon standards also, and then already established a carbon registry India. That is the first indigenous platform for registering the carbon projects and listing also. In addition to that, we have already developed Safe Board Standard certification scheme, where we are talking about in terms of plyboards and multiple boards, where there are certain emissions coming out from formaldehyde, and due to that, there are certain restrictions and regulations which we need to go through this certification scheme. We have just developed the ecotourism certification scheme also, and we are about to, go for a massive training about this ecotourism certification scheme. Coming back to the tree outside forest certification, I would like to give a little bit rational or background behind that. That first we are coming to the our country's commitments to the different international agreements. I mean, if you talk about UNFCCC Paris Agreement, where we have committed about additional carbon sink of 2.5 to 3 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalent by 2030. And another commitment which we have done is about net zero commitments by 2070. In addition to that, we have in UNCCD COP14, we have just talked about that to restore 26 million hectares of degraded land by 2030. In addition to that, if you talk about our own internal policy about national forest policy, where we have fixed up a target of to cover 1/3 as a green cover. We all know about that, the forest area. So definitely the option available for us is definitely to go outside the forest and definitely to achieve that target of 33%. Then another vision is about the enhanced farmers' income, and then to cover up or to address all these issues, whether it is international commitments, our own national policy, or how to enhance the farmers' income. The tree outside forest is a central theme potential to address all these targets. So this was our basically one of the background to develop these certification standards scheme. Second aspect was taking the industry scenario. We all know that wood-based industries, they are facing a lot of challenges at that time to get a consistent supply of raw material procurement, desired species and grade. And in addition to that, when we are talking about a large block plantations done by the big industry players, the farmers, due to small scale of plantations, they are unable to fetch the benefits of inclusion under certified supply chains. They were always being left behind. And another mechanism was there where industry and farmers, they collaborate to grow desired species, ensuring buyback and sustained supply of raw material to wood-based industries. In addition to that, one study was done and submitted to 15th Finance Commission, where it has been reported that 72% of the raw material for these industries are coming from trees outside forest. Only 5% are coming from the forest, and the rest is 23% from the import. So this is another aspect to cover up and then to develop this scheme. And then the third, clubbing these two aspects into it, that despite a huge production, which we are getting about 72%, there are no sustainability adherence system as well as a certification standard for this resource at present, at that time when we were discussing about in 2015 and 16. And then in addition to that, Indian manufacturers, those who are trying to export their raw material and then trying to get the raw material from tree outside forest, they were unable to tap the global market and tier value added products because they were not having certified raw material using, and that's why they were unable to fetch the desired price available in the market, which we talk about as a premium price. And I have already mentioned about that these farmers, smallholder and marginal farmers, which they cover about 86% of the land holding in our country. And they were totally adversely affected, just not to be included in this, you can say, enhancement of the premium price. And then most of the certified drought products which were available in the Indian market, they were excluding from tree outside forest resource. So based on these background, and there was another angle also, that there was a report which was, published, through ITTO by Dr. Pramod Kant and Raman Nautiyal, where it has been mentioned, if you talk about total production of roundwood in India, it is 47 million cubic meter per annum. And out of that, 45 million cubic meter comes from tree outside forest. Only 2 million cubic meter is from state wood forest. But if you talk about our demand, then demand was 57. So there is a gap of 10 million cubic meter, which is being supplied through import. And these basic 45 million cubic meter, which is available, but it is not certified. So the whole idea was this, that how to get the wider base of the certified raw material for these industries to cover these 45 million cubic meter. In addition to that, if we will certify these material, lot of farmers will get encouraged and they will try to go for a massive afforestation of the tree species in their own land. So we will reduce the supply of import, which is 10 million cubic meter. So this was also one of the major reasons how to go for this certification scheme related to tree outside forest. What sort of framework? We are following a very transparent, credible system while developing any of the certification scheme. And then there is the major 3 framework which we follow about. First is about standard setting process, which is internationally benchmarked and globally credible, transparent process with open participation and balanced representation of all stakeholders, which we do it. Then second important aspect, which I always try to emphasize upon, that there should not be conflict of interest among institutions, agencies involved in the standard development process. Because when we talk about scheme owner, when we talk about accreditation body, and we talk about certification body, there should not be any conflict of interest between these 3 important pillars, which are involved into certification mechanism process. And definitely the certification scheme is to be either it is a region-based or country-based or area-specific. Yeah, and then on the right side, I've just mentioned about the whole process, which we have taken it from the international benchmark, that is from PFC, where we start with a stakeholder mapping and then coming to the publication of the standard. Doing it in between, we have, invited the stakeholders as per EOI, and then we constitute a standard development group or technical working group. Then they sit together, they develop a draft document, which is put on the public consultation for 60 days. After getting their comments, incorporating into it, we go for a pilot testing in couple of the areas. And there is a rationale behind also about pilot testing, in which area we need to go for that. And after getting comments from the pilot testing, we again incorporate and go for a consensus building on the final draft. And once the final draft is being done, sometimes we put it again on the public consultation for 30 days. And once getting all the comments, we go for a formal approval through the governing body. And once it is approved by the governing body, we publish the standard that is for our internal use. I'm talking about domestic use. And the whole thing is being done in 16 months to 24 months. This is the general timeline. And it is applicable for 5 years. And after that, it is due for periodic revision of the standards after completion of 5 years. I'm just showing it, the types of stakeholder. We just use the agenda, UN Agenda 21, if we talk about, there are different sectors when you are going for a stakeholder mapping to have a more transparent process. So we include business and industries, non-governmental organizations, government and local authorities also, international stakeholders also, and scientific and technological committee. So when we were doing the tree outside forest certification scheme, the stakeholders were involved from these following sectors, and then they were actively involved as a part of SDG. The incomplete doing this whole exercise, it was initiated in 2016 and completed in 2019. In this, we have done a technical working group meeting 17 times, SDG 4 times, and consultation meeting 1. And then we had visited the field visits for twice, and stakeholder consultation workshop also twice we did. Pilot testing was done 4 diverse sites across the country. And the stakeholder, if you talk about composition, 45 SDG members and 5 technical working group members were there as a part of this scheme. Just to give a rationale, because we are trying to take all sort of models into it, whether agroforestry in scattered, linear plantations, urban forest. So all sort of areas were taken for the pilot testing. And that's why we have taken one area in Tamil Nadu, one in Saharanpur, Uttar Pradesh, another was in Bikaner, Rajasthan, and the 4th was in Delhi for basically for urban forestry. These are the couple of snaps which at the time of consultation meeting for pilot testing. Then this pilot testing, they visited to a couple of the areas for the pilot testing also. And then when this scheme was developed, it is first of its kind, not only in India, but anywhere in the world. While getting the endorsement from PFC in August, Netherlands is another country who has got their own national schemes of tree outside forest also endorsed by PFC. The scope was to cover certification of agroforestry plantations, urban trees and forest, scattered trees in farmland and homesteads, trees along roads, canals, railway lines, and orchards and gardens. The whole idea was this, to include marginal and small farmers as a part of this scheme. They should not be left behind. That's why the whole focus or the scope of this scheme was basically to cover these important stakeholders. And this standard has been developed in consultation with diverse stakeholders, including the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. Here, I would like to mention that when the final consensus was done and then it was approved and it was submitted to Ministry of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare, it was sent to all the states. And that's why the final notification was extended by the NCCF for 6 months to get the comments from different states. So we received 4 to 6 states comments, which were again incorporated while finalizing the standard schemes. Just to give a gist about the different themes, how this certification standard schemes, the basic themes which we are covering. We are covering legality, compliance with legal requirements, where we talk about compliance to laws, ownership, land records. Then another theme is about management plan and practices. That is only for block plantations. We are not trying to focus or insist upon management plan and practices if any farmer is having only 10 or 15 number of trees in their farmland. Then another theme is about health and vitality of TF resources, where we talk about application of pesticides, chemical, etc. Then maintenance and enhancement of productive functions also, sustainability, harvesting techniques, record keeping, that is also one of the important parameters to assess the scheme, whether it has been implemented in any of the area or not. Then socio-economic responsibility in terms of social protection, labor laws, minimum wage act, etc. And in conservation and environmental safeguards, we talk about avoidance of invasive species, soil water quality, protection, and rare species. These are the couple of things. And then while doing though, we have 35 criteria and 136 indicators covering these six themes in this NCCF, PFC, TOC certification standards. How we are going to implement, we have just given a model that how it is to be used or implemented in the field. It can be industry or supplier driven, where any of the big players like ITC, Star Paper, they can take lead. They have their own catchment area where they are having large plantations. They can be a resource entity for that. Or if a group of farmers in terms of cooperative or federation or NGO driven, can also be sort of things where we have just given a Patneshwari Agri Cooperative Limited, just an example. Or when we talk about owners managing urban trees and forest roadside plantations, where certification by municipal corporation or RWA or social forestry forest department can also be a resource entity while certifying the trees on the urban areas. I've just mentioned about, we all mentioned about that. So what are the benefits of TOF certification schemes? And basically, again, inclusion of a smallholder farmers under certified supply chains. That was the reason. Assured buying backs and linkages to WI, wood-based industries. Ensuring right farm gate price for the farmers. Need of income benefits, enhancing the resilience of farmers. And the last, but that is very important, that we need to have a mechanism for Indian wood-based industry to facilitate compliance with due diligence of international legislation and preparing in advance for upcoming reforms. That's the reason that we would go for endorsement with PFC to get it more international recognition. And the whole idea was this, that if you will get it endorsed by PFC, that is international body, then we will enable countries, because it gives a opportunity to tailor their sustainable forest management requirements to their specific forest ecosystems, legal and administrative framework, and the endorsement process which they follow. They ensure while they are locally adapted, all national standards meet PFC benchmark. Every system is different, but all meet global requirements. And third is this, the product means that it is coming from a certified, whether it is forest or outside forest area. So these are the three basic criteria for which we need to go for PFC endorsement. And just the whole process, how it was done, because as mentioned earlier, that although our standards were developed in 2019, but we just to get a recognition, we just submit our application in 2020 to PFC for endorsement. And from that 2020 till 2023, in these 3 years, all these developments were done because they have their own set of process, which has been shown on the right side of that, where they review the application. After that, they put public consultation and assessor tender process side by side for that. And then once they go for identifying the assessor will go for external assessment. For that, the person will come to the concerned country. Mr. Jaraslov had come here in April 2022, and then he had visited the pilot testing areas also, even interacted with the person's different stakeholders in person, one-to-one. And after that, it was the internal review report was submitted to PFC, which was again put up to the PFC Board of Directors meeting. And finally, it was in the General Assembly, it was 100% consensus, vote. It was endorsed by 55 countries. And by on 25th August 2023, we have received a formal letter from CEO and Secretary General PFC Council, where our endorsement of tree outside forest certification system was endorsed by PFC. This is a couple of snap shots, which just would like when the Jaraslov had come here, the assessor. And then he had internal meeting also with NCCF, with different stakeholders also. He had visited the field area also, and then discussed with the farmers also. This is just on the left side, the letter of endorsement which we received from PFC. and they have put it on the LinkedIn also in PFC International, where they have mentioned that India trees outside forest resources are estimated to fulfill over 85% of the industrial wood requirements. So they have just endorsed it, and they have just said that India and Netherlands, these are the only two countries where the tree outside forest certification scheme have been endorsed by PFC. The last slide, which I would just like to show it, because a lot of people are confused about to get it more recognition in the international market, that whether the other certification system is much more visible or PFC. But what I would like to show, that on the left side, you just say all the PFC, this is accepted and recognized by international legislation and regulations. If you talk about US Lacey Act, you talk about EUTR, and now we are talking about EUDR, even Australian government also Illegal Logging Prohibition Act, or Japanese, all the regulations of different countries are accepted by PFC. They have accepted all the international or the country-based legislation and regulations in PFC. On the right side, if you just say all the big brands, they have been induced and they have included PFC in their procurement policies. So if you just see, it is at par, much more recognition, much more visible if you talk about the international market. And the way forward, just I have just said that since we have just got the endorsement, we are just going for in a massive way for consideration in awareness training for auditors, because now we have developed our training module also, where we are going to have a training for consultants, for CBs, and for the auditors also. And then how we are going to give capacity building for the concerned officials also in a different state governments also. These are the four major parameters where we need to massively work to promote and sensitize or create awareness about this new scheme, which is just endorsed by PFC. With this, thank you very much for giving me opportunity to apprise you about our newly endorsed PFC scheme. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really a pleasure listening to you, and especially the journey that you undertook to get this certification scheme benchmark. So, sir, in this entire journey that you spoke about, considering the length and the breadth of this country, we understand that trees outside forests definitely contribute more to the economy than the forest itself. So, in fact, even again, I would bring my question back to the same thing. This awareness that the trees outside forest is more important to us was really not known to us till today. For us, it was always that it is a forest produce. So, whenever we are looking at using wood around us, we are talking about things like cutting down forests. We are not talking about cutting down trees, right? So you brought a different perspective to the whole thing. And the only thing that I would always look forward to is like how we promote this whole certification scheme. Of course, you have a plan in hand, and that also looks like a big task. But anything that has been already initiated on this, sir? Anything that you would like to deliberate on?
There are two things that what we are trying to do, that because initially also being as a earlier a part of the forest officials fraternity, I had discussed with couple of state governments also, and everybody was desperately waiting for getting a PFC endorsement, because most of the industry players, those who also want to come and then talk to the concerned state, they were waiting for this. So like UP Forest Department, MP Forest Department, we are talking about that. And I have made a couple of presentations and have a series of discussions also. So my only point is this, it's on. Then another aspect is this through IPMA, through, see, I mean that a lot of associations are there where we are, collaborating and then trying to have a discussion about that. In addition to that, we are just trying to give auditors training, because definitely now you have developed a scheme. But where are the players? I mean, those who can do or certify this, certification bodies. So we have just, it's not like that waiting for this. So in the last 1 year, what we have done, that we have developed our training module. And then just we are waiting for this endorsement. So now we are in this quarter. We are just starting it now to give the auditors training even in we are including CBs and consultants also to give a massive coverage or wider coverage of the scheme. But definitely what you have just mentioned, it is a challenging job. It is not that easy. And to get more, because you know that it is a voluntary market driven mechanism. I mean,
Correct.
we cannot force and we cannot make it mandatory. But definitely we need support from the concerned ministry or the government. We are also trying to have some sort of angle into it, and we are trying to achieve that. But definitely we are taking a short steps, you can say, still not starting it, but definitely we are quite hopeful that in near future to come, we will definitely try to take it to the right place and right person.
So I have one more question. That is, if a certification body wants to get into this certification scheme, what's the route that they need to follow? Like, they have to come to NCCF directly and approach you for the accreditation. How would it go about? Like,
So there are two things about that. Definitely they can approach us, and we will definitely try to put it to the certification body. But generally, that's why we have thinking about the role of the certification bodies in panel through NABCB. I mean, related to a particular
okay.
scheme. Their role is very important about that.
So,
And
like,
as Dr. Manish Pandey has said that we don't involve as a scheme owner, we don't involve into ourselves into it. Definitely, the certification bodies, they have their own set of auditors, etc. The
correct.
logistic arrangements, and only the you can say, because it is not for profit organization, but we get a notification fee if
Got
anybody would go through CBs and then try to get certified with our own scheme. So by doing so, we get certain notification fee through that CBs. That is our source of revenue, which is there.
Perfect. So, sir, honestly, my question was this only that I mean, the scheme that is internationally benchmarked right now, will it be adopted by QCI or NABCB to then give it to the CBs? Like, how would it go about?
We have already done it. I mean, if you just ask about, because there is a one mechanism is already there that for the time being, if the CBs will go for accreditation through NABCB, there is
Hmm.
I mean, provisional accreditation. There is a system for provisional
Correct.
accreditation.
Yes.
So for the time being, for the first 2 years, NCCF had taken that provisional accreditation, and NCCF can give this thing for initial 2 years to any of the CBs.
Got it. Okay. So it was really interesting to hear this entire process as well. And of course, we look forward to the auditors training because I'm sure that will be more interesting because that is where we will really know, how the certification will actually happen.
Absolutely, and I'm also taking the advantage of you people to promote it. And whenever we are going to have our expression of interest for the auditors training, we would
Yes.
definitely would like to be touch with your consortium to get a
Right.
wider coverage or information to all the, I mean, stakeholders, those who are interested as auditors.
Absolutely. So even the competency requirements for the auditors have been drawn out in this particular scheme because
We
that,
have actually what is happening that when we are developing any standards, that's why I said that standards and scheme, there are two different.
correct.
Standard is a one document of the whole scheme, because there are so many supporting documents or regulatory documents are also required. So one document is related to the procedure of accreditation body to give certificate to CBs, where we have given all the requirements,
Correct.
that what should be the requirement for auditors, what should be the requirement. So all the eligibility criteria is already there in one of the document, which is already been endorsed and approved by governing body of NCC.
Okay, right. Thank you so much, sir. Ma'am, would you like to ask some questions?
Yes, I have just jotted down a few questions. Pardon me for asking this fundamental question, Mr. Singh. Actually, I have a doubt. Is this a product certification scheme?
This is a product certification scheme.
Oh, it is a product because that is what I saw. PEFC endorsed products.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
No, but there is a COC also, but particularly we are just having for this, when we talk about TO certification scheme, then we are talking about this.
Okay. But this scheme is actually, this is a product certification, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. And I just picked up that globally, the regulators have recognized this certification. I saw something on bioenergy. what is the connect of bioenergy with this scheme? Actually, regulators have recognized the scheme. In that one slide you showed last time, there was mention about bioenergy because a lot of focus on the bioenergy.
No. What we are also developing a standard scheme for biofuels and biomass also.
Okay.
So
Right.
because what has happened that in Terry we are we are developing this scheme with Terry, and then what has happened that there is a lot of demand in civil aviation and maritime for the sustainable biofuels. And in our own country, we don't have any sort of standards, certified standards to assess or evaluate sustainable biofuels.
Absolutely.
So we are developing. We have already developed a concept note, and now we are just been done a first meeting of SDG group. So this is in the process. That certification scheme is in the process of development.
Because a lot of even a DBT, a Department of Biotechnology, they're also working on a lot of this biofuels and related ones also, and a lot of initiatives are happening there, even research and some kind of this thing. Maybe it helps actually to bring an
Exactly.
alignment with all this domestic
these all are
initiatives.
required when we are going for a stakeholders consultation. And you can believe that we are regularly in touch with Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. And they are the leader. I mean, the Dr. Kasturi, I mean, you can say Sangeeta Kasturi. She is the leader and giving us some sort of idea about this.
One of the slides I saw, municipal corporations also can pick up this. See, for example, I'm from Chennai, a government of Tamil Nadu. They're developing something like Milwaukee forests everywhere. Okay, and that's a big moment in Tamil Nadu, and they're very successful models also. Are you trying to say that even those mini forests, governmental initiatives also can be certified?
Definitely. I mean, what I'm trying to say, because unless until you will not encourage them by some sort of incentivization, that's why we have said that municipal corporation or, for example, social forestry is doing massive forestation in the urban area. So forest department can also be resource entity. Or I'm talking about in some of the larger areas with RWA. Suppose if you've done, if you are going to cover 10 trees of a farmer, why can't we cover the 100 trees which is under any RWA? So they can also be a resource entity when they would like to go for a certification and get some sort of incentive.
Interesting. Maybe we all need some repeat sessions on this to get these things inside too, because too many things, and these are all the ones which have got a closer connect with sustainability also. We'll also pick up that from many.
My only interest is about this. I mean, to encourage the people to go for more sustainable methods or the mechanism where we can say or we can give something to our next generation.
That's the finest USP I picked up from your scheme, and that sustainability focus is very clear. Maybe a few more sessions. Anyhow, you're going to do your capacity building and knowledge sharing initiatives, and because there are too many schemes in the market, too many standards across various sectors, we're also trying to do our best, to do that. Anything to do with agri, farmers, and social forestry, and these are all the initiatives. The right target, reach out to the target segments, and then to present all these things is very, very critical. Very informative session. Thank you so much. I could pick up all these things from your slides, and I wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Okay, my pleasure. Thank you.
We'll just check if we have some questions from our audience here.
Yes.
Anybody would like to ask a question?
You give me a story.
I have a question, if it's okay, madam.
Yes, so please.
Singh sir, so tell me one thing, that while we have two examples of PEFC and global gap having enablers for reciprocity, does the TOF scheme that you have designed, does it have some kind of connects which other schemes can kind of hook themselves and have some kind of reciprocity with your initiative? Why I'm saying this is because the Ministry of Environment and Forest is also coming with something of a wood and tree certification. I'm sure you're aware of it. So moving forward, do you think that you have some enabler, clauses or mechanisms that as a PFC endorsed scheme you could approach the ministry to have a look in terms of reciprocity?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in this regard, because since the major stakeholder is the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, because this is tree outside forest, so we have already, and then I have already mentioned that they were a part of the SDG and they have already seen the final version also. But definitely, once it was endorsed, then the first thing was to communicate or to inform the secretary also. But what you have just mentioned about the aspect of going with MOEF, the understanding of any sort of thing in this regard, that since NCCF being a national governing body and they have endorsed a scheme in a country, so then definitely they will think twice before going for any other scheme in the same country. So what best will be done, that it will be referred to NCCF as a national governing body of PFC, and then we can think about what you have. But what we have done, we have already intimated to the ministry also and asking them to have a handholding, and then NCCF is ready to for a handholding, and after that, if they want, they could be there as a regulator. I mean, we don't have any problem about that, where there will be a lot of private players into it about that, and we will have a handholding for 6 months and then phased out, where we can go for a capacity building and giving the training to the concerned stakeholders.
So how is their certificate and your certificate would have, any parity? Matlab, what do you have you thought of a mechanism? Because their scheme, as they write it, is Indian Forest and Wood Certification Scheme.
Yeah, Indian Forest Management Standards, they have mentioned IFMS. So I mean, they have asked us to give a comment. I have already given my comments where, so they have put on hold because they are going with the comment, because the point which I have just mentioned about that, to have certain criteria indicators of a particular process, converting into standards and then standards to a scheme. Whether they have followed the proper protocol or not, that I've just pointed out, and they are working on it. And in the meantime, we have just suggested a couple of things which they have taken it and they are working on it.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Singh, just one more quick question. You mentioned about this comes under, because since it's outside the forest, it comes under horticulture, Ministry of Horticulture and all those ministries, is it? This particular scheme?
Actually, agroforestry, basically, I mean, the agroforestry, we are just focusing on that. So that's why we have taken Ministry of Agriculture and Farmer Welfare, where the agroforestry is one of the important, I mean, component of that.
So NABARD and all will become part of the stakeholders, NABARD?
Definitely. I mean, that in one of the meetings, even Ministry of Agriculture, they have invited NABARD also.
NABARD is actually does lot of schemes. That is the reason why I'm asking. They do a lot of work in this space, actually. Yeah.
And they were quite, I mean, ma'am, I would like to tell you, they were quite keen also to help the farmers if those who are interested with this scheme also.
I'm just marking, because we ourselves have done a couple of programs inviting NABARD in our chambers. I remember. That's why maybe we'll reach out to them. So those are the right organizations actually to promote and educate, do some conversations on schemes like this. That's the reason why I wanted to know. If NABARD comes under this, fine. Thank you.
That's it. Yes,
Have there been any certifications already done in India?
Yeah, we have done this big player is Hindustan Pencils, Nataraj. So it was done because they did not wait for this international recognition, because that is for the national consumption. So they said, and then they are using it with the NCCF logo. But now we have already intimated them that since PFC endorsement has come, so if they want to use PFC logo with certain formalities, they can use also the PFC logo also for this. Okay. And now we are in the, talking terms of development with Star Papers and ITC also.
Okay. So it would definitely give an edge to people who are exporting.
Definitely, ma'am. I mean, I will tell you about pulp and paper, handicrafts, furniture, plyboards. I mean, that when I was a part of the ministry as DIGSU, and then we were trying to have our own forest certification council. I mean, you won't believe a lot of pressures from these sectors.
Correct.
And we could not do this. So definitely, because we have always said it's a market driven or demand driven. So definitely the major players are those industries which I have just mentioned about.
Hmm. Okay.
Mentioned about this is actually this is a question I wanted to ask. Which are the sectors that we have to, the product sectors that we have to map actually? Paper, packaging, and as you were mentioning, furniture. But furniture comes under trees inside the forest. That scheme also, right?
No, ma'am. I mean, you won't believe that the major things about the species which is being used in mango and acacia and cedar, which is
Right.
originated from tree outside forest. If you know,
I agree. Right. This is what actually what we use in the home front also, because we think
because
that
these are
everything
light,
comes from a
ma'am,
forest.
these are light by weight, cheap,
Mm.
which can be, I mean, marketed very frequently. So that's why, I mean, whether it is Saharanpur, it is Jodhpur or Jaipur, if you see, the market is full of these raw materials which is
That
being.
rubber wood and all that also will be covered.
Rubber is there, but it's difficult for them to transport it to these hubs. So that's
Okay.
why they are basically focusing on mango and acacia and seashell.
So handicrafts also covered, is it?
Yeah, handicraft is also covered. That's the thing.
This mapping of the sectors also we wanted. The pencil products you were mentioning, which are all the products in the sectors, it helps us to kind of connect faster. Thank you.
Correct. Yes.
Thank
Then
you.
we understand the spectrum also.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you.
Madam
And
Krishna, with your permission, I think so. Forestry is a very tricky subject. Now, what Mr. Singh is not mentioning is that FSC is going on stamping mango wood, which is a horticultural crop. तो जहाँ पैसा चलता है वहाँ सब ट्री फॉरेस्ट हो जाता है और जहाँ नहीं चलता है then it is quite a different. Coming to your point on furnitures, I think so there is another category which is bamboo and rattans, which is grass basically, out of which lot of these bamboo and cane furniture are happening. So that is also a very strong sector inside the realm of wood and non-wood forest produce, where you do certification. And so is medicinal plants. So, it's quite a tricky one. And anyway, Singh Saab is a master of all these, things, and he can categorize them as per requirement.
so I think we should have a session on first mapping. You know,
Absolutely, ma'am. I mean, always ready for that, ma'am. I mean,
yeah.
I will tell you one thing that I was a faculty professor for 8 years in my own academy.
Okay.
So I'm very passionate about capacity building and delivering lectures and free of cost. So any time if you'd like to have my services, I'm ready for that.
Yeah, because as I said, we are very ignorant about how this sector really works. Wood is a big sector and we are really not aware about it to the extent that we have knowledge about some other areas. So I think we definitely should do some more sessions with you, sir.
Okay,
And
my pleasure.
we'll
No
get a
problem.
fair
More and
idea.
more. Anything on social ventures like this, which has a strong social impact ventures. I mean, these are all the social impact certifications also, because all these
Absolutely.
are attracting a lot of private equity investments and especially social impact funds.
Absolutely.
There are investors or the PE funds which are created only for social impact, and all this things actually get into that. And this requires even CBs or whoever it is, the certification teams need to have that social responsibility quotient. As I keep saying, always not getting into commercial certifications. This is very, very critical. Even all of us are trying to learn this. We're all used to a black and white kind of a format when it comes to all this, and this is nice. Thank you. There are a couple of people who have raised their hands, Krishna. You can
Yes,
check.
yes. Yes, I can see Dr. Shankar Ramaswamy. So you can please ask your question.
Sir, is it audible?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. We can
Yes,
hear.
yes. Sir, when it comes to the horticulture, because we are having the timbers also, and nowadays most of the people, they are promoting the red sandalwood and red sandalwood. Yeah,
Okay.
so because we are having the even nursery also under the Center of Excellency, and they are promoting these kind of the forest trees to promote under the horticultural system and agri forestry system. So because we want to promote the in combination of the some companion crops, So like that they are promoting. But in that case, so whatever we are growing, even teak also, take whatever we are growing. So what is the certification when farmer is growing the in kind of this like a forest crops? So suppose do we need to promote the any other, even we are having the bamboo mission, national bamboo mission also, and even we are unable to tackle the needs of the growing population by growing the bamboo, even we are unable to promote that much under the farming sector. And when you are having the quality certification system, and what kind of the forest ecosystem we need to develop in the horticulture when we are accompanying with the other horticulture crops or agriculture crops?
I will tell you very frankly that this scheme is for tree species, and the basic criteria that the species should be grown outside forest. I'm not trying to confine into X or Y or Z species. All the tree species which have been grown within the judicial jurisdiction, if we talk about legal connotations, it is outside the forest area. Everybody, our species will come in the premises of this certification.
Thank you.
I think I will be able to give a very shortest answer to your question, I think.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. So do you mean that because you mean to say any kind of the tree that is coming outside of the forest?
Absolutely. I mean, if you will just see, we have given, if you will go to the document also, we have defined what do we mean by tree outside forest. And we have taken the definition of what has been given by Forest Survey of India about defining tree outside forest.
Sir, and we are having the two terminologies over here. So forest means is a natural conservation, and we are domesticating like by cultivation when it is coming outside of the forest.
I will tell you about this. That the problem is most of the farmers are there because when we talk about forest species, they have a very long rotation period.
Yes,
it is very difficult to encourage the farmers to go for teak and others, which is having a rotation period of 40 to 60 years.
Yes,
so
sir.
Definitely, but unless until they will not be get encouraged by some sort of incentive or some sort of short rotation species. So that's the thing. So that's why we are not going into classifying our certification schemes into forestry species or non-forestry species or timber. We said the trees species, if it is being grown outside the forest area as per the legal connotation. That's why we have taken one of the theme as legal compliance. That's
yes,
what do we understand by, and that's all. And then everything will cover under this certifications.
Yes, sir. I got it, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Bansal, sir, you would like to ask a question? You raised your hand.
He's my guru.
So it's our privilege that we are learning from all of you. Bansal, sir, can you hear me?
Maybe it was the hand raised for the previous session.
Previous session, maybe.
Yeah, I've asked them, requested them to lower their hands actually.
Okay.
Take a group pic of all the speakers. There are a couple of people raised their hands. Yeah, Mr. Bansal has raised his hand. Yes, please. Mr. Bansal, you want to ask a question? We could see your hand being raised. Okay. It's by mistake, I guess.
Think it is from the previous.
Yeah, by mistake. Mr. Pandey, group pic, please. There, Mr. Manish Pandey.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Yeah. It's okay. No, I know. Atulji, you've joined. Atulji. Not to be seen. Okay, anyhow. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Dr. Pandey, Mr. M. Singh. In fact, it was really a very good session. We got to learn a lot about the IndGap journey and its benchmarking. We got to learn a lot about the trees outside forest. You know, that thing is really Very interesting. And I look forward to more sessions. Sir, we need to have much more sessions to know about all this, and also spread the awareness about the certification scheme, how it will show up, how we are really going to have it instituted. So we will look forward to hearing from you again in future. And on behalf of CCC, I thank every one of you. In fact, I thank CCC for giving me the opportunity to host this session with learned people like you. It was a lot of learning for me. And thank you, ma'am. In fact, this is your tireless effort which brings us here again and again to learn more and contribute. Thank you so much, all the audience, for being with us. We have our next session on the 16th. So very soon we'll be updating you about the session details. Please be in touch with us on this. Thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you
you.
and have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you for the participation. Thank you all.